workers are getting paid more than the farmer, that's not fair. And if the farmer is able to pay something at the end, then they would, you know, so they'd be sort of like a percentage owner in a corporation or whatever.
Yeah.
You know, is that
that's one approach. I mean, it would be
with a legal contract.
It would
saying
be
for this term you are X percentage partner.
Interesting. That's a good question. I mean, it would. I think that I'm not aware of anyone that's tried that. And I couldn't speak to. I can't speak with much confidence about this. My sort of educated guess would be that that would be treated in a similar sort of fashion. In other words, when if they were investigators would look and say, you know, is this for real? Like, is this, you know, really a partnership? Do they relate to one another like partners? You know, do they really share the risks and the rewards like partners? Or is this just, you know, paperwork? Is this just a sham? Or, you know, some small elements of partnership meant to get around the minimum wage laws? So, I mean, if you make it real, then a lot of these things will work. But the real question is, can you afford to make it real? Yes?
Just quickly to piggyback on what you're saying with the educational program, is there something that's down that farmers can look to guide them on how legal their a model?
Actually, do we have a,
yeah.
what I can do is I can give you a couple of websites where there's more information. Do we have a marker or something anywhere? That would be too easy. Okay.
There might be something over at the party.
I got one. I got a Sharpie.
A dry erase marker.
Yeah.
We had one more question while we're looking for it. What was it?
Well, in regards, like he was mentioning about the volunteers and going back with the CSA, that's one thing, though, that nonprofits actually use volunteers in substitution for their workers. That's the thing that I'm kind of talking about. Like, well, I know many nonprofits that wouldn't exist without the work of the volunteer. Like, they could not function without these unpaid people. And, I mean, for example, grassroots groups, yes, we're not an official business. We are just a collaboration of individuals trying to get something done. But there are official nonprofits where volunteers come in and do the work of somebody. I mean, I have done that many times in the past where I've gone in and done office work and said, put me wherever you need me because I just want to help. And I have done pure, like, secretarial work and things. And it was legal. I don't remember. I signed some little thing. But so how can that happen for a business? I mean, because you're saying that you're not allowed to substitute the work. And I understand, like, where you're trying to, you know, prevent the bad situation, the bad guy kind of, you know, exploitation. But when somebody truly wants to go in there and, you know, the small farms truly need, you know, they have the economic issues where, you know, they would benefit. Like, it is a win-win situation. So how can that happen? Because it does happen with nonprofits.
Yeah. No, and that's a really good question. It's actually not one that I'm super equipped to answer. I mean, nonprofits are fairly distinct. You know, if you want to remind me, and I'll give you my email address, and we can talk about this some more, because I can actually just email Joanne and have her email out. I'll send out, I think, either some links to information about how nonprofits do it. If Joanne reminds me, which I'm sure she will. Because, I mean, this is an important question, and like I said, it's not one that I don't have any particular expertise on nonprofit law, so I don't feel super equipped to answer it.
I'll just add to that. I've done this on a farm. There's a nonprofit farm in San Jose. They do have paid staff, and they have 2 volunteer days a week. And I went there on a Saturday. A big load of people showed up, and we did all the farm work, and then they had the paid employees and a volunteer sit at a farm stand and sell the produce. And they split the produce in half. Volunteers get to take half. There's no set amount you take. You just take whatever you want out of what there is. And then the farm stand sells the other half, and it profits the farm. I mean, which is a nonprofit, but they that pays the salaries and whatever supplies they need and whatnot, the water.
So what farm is that?
It's called Veggie Lucien.
Oh, I know that.
Yeah,
Really
a total
cool.
inspiration of a place. I loved it, and I gladly contributed my labor for free, picking green garlic and onions. You know.
I'm curious about how that operates, actually. I'm just scrolling this down, but
What's that? Is that a DOL? WWDOL?
yeah, DOL.
Yeah, and I would assume
The
Veggie
Department of
Lucien,
Labor. But I mean, do volunteers come back, like, do volunteers just sort of show up every once in a while, or is there a regular routine? They spend a lot of time there, I mean...
They show up, I mean, they're invited every Wednesday and Saturday, and, you know, any one person might show up once and never again, or they might show up every Saturday, which many do. And many get actually trained as shift leaders.
Mm-hmm.
So I attended a training for unpaid volunteer shift leaders that were learning how to coordinate the volunteers around the farm and train, you know, teach the volunteers how to harvest, how to work in the greenhouse, how to work with the different tools, and that sort of thing. What?
It's good.
It was an inspiration. It was fabulous, and it's on. I think it's on San Jose's public land.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, I would assume it's very out in the open and on the up and up.
Also,
Yeah.
oh, go ahead.
No, I'd just like to say I'd like to hear a lot more about that, because, like I said, I mean, the volunteer stuff is complicated, and I'm not. But we'll talk about it more over email or something.
Okay.
But that's an interesting approach that might lead the way to some solutions.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
But the farmer account also, that issue of like paying them enough money, maybe, and if they're not going to count for your own more than compensation, could you just pay them more, but then the interns give it back? You know what I'm saying? You know,
I mean,
if you need $500, you know, you pay
Yeah.
$500 a month extra, but then they give it back for
so
as rent.
real quick, so the main issue, I think, with Free Women Board is whether it's really for the benefit of the worker or really for the benefit of the employer. That's usually what it comes down to, determining whether it counts as wages. So, for example, a lot of employers have decided that it's useful to them to have their employees around all the time. And so, you know, they give them board, like, you know, an apartment manager or something, or they give them a room, or they have a cafeteria on site where they feed workers, basically to keep workers there. Then there's, you know, no way in hell that anyone is going to treat that as part of wages. On the other hand, I think that if, you know, that it's genuinely for the benefit of the worker, then oftentimes that will be counted. The other thing to think about in terms of Free Women Board is that the valuation of that can be very difficult. So basically, the employer, when it's counted as part of wages, can count the fair value, certainly no more than it costs the employer, and both, you know, sometimes less than it costs the employer, depending on what the fair value is. And that's a difficult question that can often lead into trouble. The paying employees and then charging them back thing is what I think, you know, kids these days use the term sketchy to cover that sort of situation. Partly, I think, it's frowned upon just because a lot of people have used it in extremely exploitative fashions. I mean, there are farms in this country that are operating even probably today, although every time anyone catches them, they get shut down, where, you know, contractors, you know, coyotes bring migrant laborers in. Are we badly out of time? We are, aren't we?
The next
Yeah.
one, sure.
All right, I'll finish this rant and then shut up. Where, you know, offer them a set wage rate and then deduct from their pay for housing, for food, for transportation. I mean, the term debt peonage gets implied, and people who do that go to prison. So I mean, the point is that it's something that's frowned upon, I think, mainly because it's so easy to abuse. No. All right, thank you.